Welcome everybody to the Rebel Crone. This is Elisa, and guess what day it is again? It's Thursday, and I am so happy to be with my friend Maurice again to talk about who knows what, but we'll soon find out. I think we've got a lot of good things in store today. At least there's a lot of things on my mind, and I look forward to running them by Maurice and just seeing what comes of it. So without further ado, welcome, Maurice. Good to have you once again.
Once again, good to be here, Elisa.
Yay. What's it like there where you are? How's the weather?
Probably warmer than where you are. It's beautiful fall weather here in Florida, especially Pensacola in particular. It's getting up maybe into the upper 70s and as the high for the day, and then the high 50s for the lows in the evenings, which is really perfect fall weather for us. And
Yeah,
I
that's
understand
really
you
nice.
guys. I don't know if you got it in Albuquerque, but I do know that further north there was snow already. That was
Yeah, like I'm looking at my thing and it's gonna be in the it's high 60s today and then low 70s next week
well,
and
that's good
40 at
weather for
night. So
you.
this is like perfect, yeah, perfect fall weather. The reason
Mhm.
I mentioned that is because there's so much crazy stuff going on with the weather nowadays. I was just up this weekend with some girlfriends, some lady friends of mine, and I'm up in Red River area, and it was just poured rain. I know it poured rain down here in Santa Fe. Roswell flooded. You know, one of them sent me a little video clip about all over the country and the world that just crazy floods going on that just weren't even part of the plan or predicted or anything. So I think we just need to hang on for more of that. Because I believe in my intuition that the time where that's coming up right now, you know, we also have to have a new crazy sprung on us that we can't predict. You know, when we had the whole Jabby 19 thing going on, you know, that was something that came out of left field. Well, we got to have a new left field. So I feel like the next left field is going to be the weather thing. And I also feel like we've been groomed for this too, Maurice, because of all the movies we've had for years on sort of like the end of days thing and all it's been with weather stuff. So it's in the mass consciousness there is, I think, preloaded with some fear and stuff about that this could happen. So yeah, that's just my little prediction here is that it's just going to get a bit crazier as we go on.
Yeah, let me ask you about the what the one in southern Arizona you mentioned. What was it? The city.
Roswell?
Yeah, Roswell, the the space alien place. Um, was that just strictly because of heavy rain, or did they have flooding from some river or something, or what went on down there, or do you know?
You know, I don't know because I was totally out of touch because I was having fun with the girls. And so I really didn't, I don't know much about it. I think it was just this unprecedented rainfall.
Okay,
And you know, in the desert like that is what happened. And it was Roswell, New Mexico. The desert, you know, the ground isn't that permeable. So if you have a lot of rain coming down, you know, it has to come down kind of slowly and moisten it so it can absorb it. Because
right, I
otherwise it
do
could just run,
understand. Mhm.
yeah, it could just run off the top just because it's not, you know, it's not like topsoil and stuff that we have like
They
in the
would absorb
Midwest.
the rain. Yeah, I understand. I
Yeah.
understand. Okay.
Yeah. But I just, you know, it was such a fun weekend. In fact, I went up to see my girlfriends one day last week and we had such a nice time. We decided to spend the weekend together. And it was just, I think for all of us, it was really nourishing to our souls because of friendship. I mean, just nurturing friendships is so important. And it's going to get more important as these days go on. So, you know, and to find kindred spirits. So I was just kind of moving through my heart this morning is that appreciation to having, you know, these beautiful kindred spirit women, you know, most of them crones, one's a crone in the making. Cause yeah. So it was just yeah, I was gonna name some names, but I won't name any names. But yeah, it was really special. Maurice, and it was a pattern break for me.
Yeah,
You know, it was a really
absolutely for you. Yep.
yeah. Yeah, because most of them are a little more footloose and fancy free than I am, or I've allowed myself to be. So it was kind of fun. And yeah, we did a lot of fun, mostly indoor fun stuff because it was raining the whole time and pouring rain and snowing. To
Wow.
answer your question, there was, but the snow was really like heavy, wet, slushy, and the
Yeah, I
power
remember
was
that.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Actually did live in the north growing up, and probably the first, actually, Jesus, I didn't move out of the north until I was 29 or 28, 28, 29. And but I've been in the south ever since. I don't like the cold anymore.
yeah. It's you got to get used to it. You got to have the right clothes. It's not for everyone. And I forget here in Santa Fe, we have a very proper winter. It's a long, cold winter here.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so just kind of starting to get ready for that coming down the pike.
Well, on the other hand, it's nice to come into a warm house, especially if there's a fire going in the fireplace. That's nice. And you got
Yes,
clothing to protect yourself from the outdoors. They certainly make enough of it.
they
So you
certainly
you can
do.
always compensate for it, and it is refreshing. You breathe that cold air. But again, it's awful nice to have 70 degrees in the middle of December or early January.
Yeah, I grew up in the Midwest where we had four real very distinct seasons. And when I say Midwest, it's Upper Illinois, right on the Wisconsin border. So for me, that kind of more upper area is Midwest as opposed to farther south. And it was yeah, like proper seasons. There's something about our biology or my biology that really got used to that and really likes the change in the seasons. I don't like his drastic I don't like the super hot and I don't like super cold. So I like it a little more a little more milder all around. But I
Hmm.
do appreciate the changes in season. It kind of is the flow with life, right, Maurice, is that we have our seasons of our lives. We have the seasons of our days, even, where we have the winters. We go through winter periods. And then
Hmm.
we have the spring periods where something new is starting to be born. And then we come into the fruition and things growing in the summer and then the fruition in the fall. And it's with creative projects, it's with relationships, it's with ideas. It's there's things, there's a flow, a creative flow to life.
Well, as you're in harmony with the nature around you, also
Mm-hmm.
is what you're talking about, and too much super cold, like the further north you go, or too much super warm, or at least moderately warm, like the tropical climate. So I'm not quite tropical, but I'm damn close to it down here on the northern Gulf Coast. Um, it's kind of out of harmony with the flow of nature, if you will. I mean, we compensate pretty damn good for it, but nonetheless, it is the four seasons are more harmonious to this flow you're talking about. And I know what you're talking about. I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, so which is
Oh yeah,
effectively it's the same climate you're talking about.
that's very akin to Rockford, Illinois. But I was thinking too with this, Maurice, more like the ebbs and flows through life, no matter where you live. Where a lot of people, when they're into the winter season of a cycle, let's say, where things are laying dormant in their life. And I'm talking specific about, let's go into breaking pattern. All right. So you want to break pattern. You set this intention, you're doing some different things, and so you're back in your intention with action. And then things just kind of they still look the same. So I think sometimes in our life, in the cycles of change, we have to allow for the dormancy period. So sometimes it's the changes and the pattern break you're doing may not manifest right away. It may take a while for manifestation. It takes a while for the seeds, to germinate, to be fed correctly, and then to start growing. And so sometimes we like start to question things because I know this is the new me and my world should look like this or that because that's not me anymore, but it's still looking the same way and you get frustrated and that kind of ruins the flow coming to you. Is this making sense, Maurice? Because you
It
break
is.
pattern. It's not always like boom, there it is. Sometimes you got to go through and you have to allow things to sit, to sit through the winter period, before you can come into the spring.
Well, the one thing about people is they're impatient. They want instant manifestation. And okay, so we know it's not instant, but we want it quicker than it actually is. And that patience is a virtue. You've heard that said many times, especially early on in life. But it's still true. And our timing is not natural. We have a tendency to rush things. We want to see instant results or as close to instant as we can make them.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. So
we that's out of the flow. That's pushing things. And I don't know how to suggest how you stop that, except be aware of the fact and take a breath and slow and just go into the flow, become more harmonious with what's around you. But that's
yeah.
again general comment that doesn't make a hell of a lot of practical sense. I know that.
Yeah, but it's also understanding this, Maurice. But once we understand what it is, then we can start working with it. And this
Yes,
whole
that's
thing of
true.
instant gratification, I'm concerned that there's like a whole generations across this world to different degrees that are being groomed for instant gratification when that's not how life works. So I think first you have to have an understanding of the life cycles. And then with that, there's a place for patience, there's a place for faith, there's a place for understanding. Like if you're aligned, if you really feel like you're aligning with your higher self, your higher calling, and I'm getting more, I broke the old pattern and I'm coming into alignment with who I really am, and you feel that in your heart and your soul. Well, you just have to rest in that. Sometimes you have to rest in that for a while, for a season, while the other things undo and new things come in. And
All
it's
right.
it, yeah,
I hear you, and I'm sorry I have to say it again.
say it.
I will. And you're familiar with it because you're of an age that you can recall what it was like. Things have changed. The 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 computer world, the digital world has descended upon mankind, and it's changed how the flow of our external world. It's made it that way. It's allowed it for it to happen, instant gratification. Not that long ago, really, but it's forever ago for people that are under 20 years and under, actually
It's for
probably
never
30 years
ago.
and younger.
For never ago.
Yeah. And 30 years old. I remember when I turned 30, I thought I was old. And you probably did too. Now I look at it and I say, damn, I wish I was 30. That would be great again. But we did not have the instant gratification. We had quicker gratification than our parents did growing up or our grandparents. But the push is towards this overlay of the electronic age, the digital age. When we went from analog to digital, things changed externally in this world. You and I are talking like a Dick Tracy watch, only better. Well, back when I was growing up, Dick Tracy was a comic book you could go to the store and buy, and he had that wristwatch thing on it. It was effectively the same thing as a cell phone, only or well, what did they call it in Star Trek? Oh
Oh, the holodeck.
no
Holodeck.
no 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 the handheld thing, beam me up, Scotty. Remember that?
Oh yeah. Or they did
Uh,
the little thing. They go beep and then they could talk.
yeah, exactly. Anyway, that's effectively what we have.
Well,
It's all
Maurice,
right. Here's the
this
deal. It's the external world is imposing itself on everyday life. Where before we were living a more natural life. The life in the 50s and 60s was way compared to today. It's the old world almost. It's too slow. Dial telephones and we didn't have email. We had U.S. mail. So you wanted to talk to somebody in writing. If you were lucky, it got to them in 3 days. If you were
right.
lucky, and the telephone. I go back. I remember in the 40s. I mean, we did not have dial phones. We had party lines. We had to pick up the phone, and the operator was there, and then she would make the call for you. There was no dial on the front of the phone. but I saw it happen, in the early 50s, late 40s, early 50s. Then you had the rotary phone, and that stayed around for until you had the push button phones. Well, that's all society and and technology imposing itself over the decades. It's amazing how much change can happen in 10 years in this country.
Oh, it's great.
Go ahead.
What does Jason say that like it's 20 years to go from horse and buggy to hadron collider?
He
You
says
know,
that. I don't know if it's
yeah.
that quick, but it's
No,
damn quick.
200 years. You have 200 years to go from that to
There
that.
you go.
So things progress really quickly. But, so a couple things come to mind with that is that in the higher realms, it's instant creation. We're in time and space where creation slowed down for
Mhm.
specific reasons. You may want to say it's for us in a learning curve, for us in 3D form, whatever it is, things have been slowed down so that, it's like what we think and what we create in our life is, there's like a sequence to it. It's
There
spread
is.
out over the time continuum, but in the higher ranges, it's like you think it, there it is. So there's something moving more towards a natural state where things are happening more quickly. But the human mind in the human knowledge isn't keeping up with it as far as their power, how to use this power correctly. So it's throwing people off this instant stuff. They're getting caught up in the ego and the higher self and in the world of form as opposed to them being the creators of it. Is that making sense?
It does. It's well, the thing of it is we're in a transition. We're no longer in the old way, the olden times, if you will,
Yeah.
of the 80s. And God forbid you go back to the 60s and the 50s anyway,
Mm-hmm.
or even further back than that. That's ancient history. Might as well be the Romans, for modern kids. Um, you got two things going. The world, here we go. The world is separating. There are some that are the external world is going down this path towards, like we're talking about, instant gratification, speed, external world running everything. And then there's another path, which is the road less traveled that, I mentioned before, Robert Frost and all of that kind of thing, where we see that, but we find it's not satisfactory, and we see a viable alternative to ourselves, but it's contrary to the external world. And trying to be in this world and of this world, takes conscious awareness. You can't, and that's and getting that working from not being aware of any of it to being totally or as much as possible aware of it is a trip and a journey. And it's not
Yeah.
always an easy ride. We do stumble, we do bump into the things along the way, but we learn quickly. That's another thing that is on a positive. We do find that we learn quickly. We make mistakes still, or I don't know if they're really mistakes at all, but we run into things that we normally would not have ever run into before and notice them, and then we alter our course. But as you go that way, you find, if you look at it really, you come to those understandings, realizations, and decisions a lot more quickly than you ever did before in your earlier life, if you will.
Knock on wood. Hopefully that
No,
would be
I see
ideal.
it all the time with people.
Yeah.
That's part of the growth, if you will. The Yeah, they don't know everything. Hell, I don't know everything, and I don't know anybody that does. But
Mm-hmm.
I do see progress. I see people becoming more attentive, more aware, more spontaneous, if you will, and that doesn't mean careless. It means when I say spontaneous, I'm talking about right action. They do right
Ah,
action a lot quicker than they ever did before.
yeah.
Most of the time anymore, it's without thought either. They don't sit there and have to mull over, is this the way? Is that the way? Or is it the other way? They find themselves doing the right action. And if they look at it and they say, damn, if they look back, a lot of people will, they'll look back and they say, wow, I never, I don't know how the hell did I do that, but it was the right thing. That's
Yeah,
part
which
of
should
it.
be second nature, which
Well,
ideally,
that's what it's
yeah.
becoming to a lot of people. It is becoming second nature, and the more they realize that as that, the more content they become with things.
Well,
Content is
that is the
the
road
word.
less traveled, right? And what we're talking about here is really force versus power. Where most of the people, we've been trained in the world is force, is forcing our way into our worlds and our creations, the instant gratification. And I'm going out, I'm seizing the day, I'm making it happen. Man's powerful. Well, man's not powerful. You can only push around so much energy without be in alignment with creation, or you can push around so much. And where's your real gratification? Your gratification isn't going to come from the things out there. And you ask anybody that's made any amount of money, are you happy? Are you happy or not? You reach that $1 million. Now, are you happy? Oh, now you got now you got 10 million. You should be like super duper duper happy, but they're not, because mankind alone, adrift from spirit, isn't going to there's nothing satisfying about the world. It's temporary satisfaction maybe, but it's not real satisfaction. So that road less traveled is that world of aligning to spirit, to your higher self, and like the truth of how you're designed to be, and the truth of creation, the truth of connection, the cycles of life, just and that is in that. I think things can happen as we get in that alignment. Things can happen more and more quickly the more aligned we are, but it happens in this beautiful, like graceful way, and it
There you
happens like
go.
in a perfect way. And you don't have, it's allowing. I talk all the time in my videos, Maurice, about let's get, your purpose is about allowing spirit in, allowing to be moved with that current, and then create from there, and then break pattern from there. You break pattern to get into this new pattern of alignment, alignment with your immortal within, alignment with your higher self, and then have trust that it's gonna work. It's gonna work out in a beautiful, harmonious way.
Well,
You know,
it's there's all kinds of natural comparisons to illustrate what you just said. If nothing else, get into the flow like a
yes,
river, as opposed to trying to force a new channel somewhere. It takes brute force. It takes massive power to do a thing like that. But if you just float down the middle of the river, you're still it's smooth.
yeah, yeah. You
It's
and
just
you
as
go
smooth.
around all the eddies. The currents will actually take you around the rocks. It'll take you through, and navigate you through the easiest and best way down.
Yeah.
Um, but that's kind of, that, and that goes right back to the whole challenge right now is that instant gratification. And what I propose and what I'm trying to say here is that as more aligned we get and harmonious we get with that flow, with that river, the flow, the stream of you, the stream of who you are, that the gratification comes in its perfect time. And I think it can come, and you actually live in gratification, but then your world's allowed to form up around you because it can flow easily. I think we ruin the flow because we're hanging on so tight to stuff. And I'm hanging on to this rock over here and I'm fighting it over there. And you're just,
Hmm.
self-willing your way through. And then, or you're going in with the ego and the whole, like, you know, I, I, I'm wandering around about it, but I think the point is having that trust and that faith is that when we break a pattern with something, is to allow the space in your own life and in your own mind to line up with things, and have patience with yourself, have
Did you ever
patience.
hear? Have you ever heard of an author named Richard Bach, Bach?
Yeah, what did he write?
Well, Jonathan Livingston Seagull is
Yeah,
probably his most popularly well-known book. He
yeah.
wrote several others, and I'm not sure if it was that book or another one. And I'm not even sure I still have either one of them, but I used to have them. I know I read them.
It's been a long
In
time.
the
Those came out like
prologue
in the
to
70s.
one of his books, he made that very conclusion. He said he told a nice story, and I cannot tell it nearly enough well enough to recreate his words. Point being, though, he was describing um, the cliff dwellers on the side of a flowing river, holding on as tightly as they can to that cliff because they knew who they were, where they were, and what they were. They were holding on to that cliff against the flow of the river. And then one or two of them, they decided to say, "I'm tired of this. I want to let go of this." They let go and they went in with the flow, and they found a different kind of an existence as they flowed down the river, watching all of these cliff dwellers as they passed by, desperately grasping onto what their finger holds or their toe holds or whatever. And again, I cannot say it because it's been Christ decades since I read it, but the sense of it, anybody that's actually read that knows what I'm talking about immediately. There's a beauty in it of just letting go of this constant grasping of something that they never can really hang on to as long as they wish they could, because time, everything changes.
Well, it does. And we're not talking about cliff dweller Indians, native peoples. We're
No,
not
no,
talking
no,
about
no,
that, but you're
no,
talking
not at
just about
all.
the steep. I always want to make sure about just people hanging on to like their life is precarious. They feel like they're hanging on the edge. It's rough. It's steep. It's a climb. And that's all is that. And I think what I'm hearing you saying, Maurice, is by letting go and going into the flow, that all of a sudden it takes you down the stream and maybe there's the green pastures, right? And there's the easy places where there's food and there's rest and there's peace. You don't have to hang on anymore. You can, that's such a good, metaphor for life.
There's
That's
another one too. I'll mention, and you've all heard it. It's a children's nursery rhyme, for crying out loud. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. you merrily, 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 merrily.
Mary, Mary.
Life
Life
is
is
but a
but
dream.
a dream. Oh
How
my
long?
God.
How long ago was that ever written? My God,
Life is but a dream.
that's what it says.
Wow. Wow. That's very,
Well,
I know it's all right there.
it is. Those freaking uh, children's. What was it? Did I just said it? It was nursery rhymes, for crying out loud, from
Yeah.
the Middle Ages, probably. Yeah, I'm talking 1300s. That probably came. If it wasn't, I don't know what century, but it was that kind of long ago, 500-600 years ago. People knew
Yeah.
that.
And they probably were more in touch with like native wisdom, the innate native
Well,
wisdom,
they did.
because
Yeah.
we're devoid of it now because we're into the technology age. And what kind of wisdom is technology going to feed you?
Surface technology, surface wisdom. That's what. It's shallow.
Yeah. Shallow wisdom. Exactly. Oh my
All
gosh.
technology breaks down quickly. That's part of its reason for being, so it can be replaced by new stuff. What do they
Yeah,
call
but
it? Having grown up in Detroit, in Dearborn, planned obsolescence. They build that stuff to break in 3 years so they can build the next one.
exactly
Not
everything
repair it, but
I think
replace it.
uh, our whole consumer society is like that. It's like, God forbid anything, the light bulb, like they know how to have light bulbs last, I don't know how long, but a very, very long time. There's
Apparently, there's
planned
one still
light.
burning right now from 100 years ago.
Yeah, I mean this is where we have been groomed into this consumer society. Where actually the sad thing for me, Maurice, is that we're pillaging the earth and the natural resources for planned obsolescence. Where as opposed to let's use the resources and make them last as long as they can. And there's no reason why we have to use so much. And the clothing industry is one of them. You go by any town, any city, and just the malls after malls after malls filled with textiles, filled with all this product. No one's ever going to use it. And you know what they do with it? They bury it because next year they have to come out with the next model of it. I
Yep.
had years ago, I had somebody I knew that had their brother-in-law worked in one of the major cities actually in Chicago, and all the dumps, they were all mob run, and it was a racket, and he actually had to quit it because it was so unnerving and disgusting to him. Is that they would bury in these landfills like crates full of jeans, brand new jeans that, they brought the new style in. So they gather all what's left. You send back to the company, they bury it. Like
Wow.
wrenches, or there was like tools, and they came out with a new style. So all this stuff just got stuck back into the ground and got buried. So what do they do with all that stuff that doesn't sell? Do you wonder? Do they send it to other countries, third world countries, so that they could raise their quality life? No, we take out the resources of Mother Nature, we turn it into a form that she cannot digest anymore. And then we
Right.
stick it back into her and she can't digest it. I mean, that to me is just sacrilegious. Sorry, I'm getting like worked
It's
up about it.
wasteful for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like one small thing there in the whole thing, but it's a really important thing because it comes down fundamentally how we're working with the mother, Mother Earth, the divine mother, incarnate, in spirit of the land. And without that, without honoring what's the resources giving us, I mean, that to me is like the root of the whole problem, and
It's a
there's nothing.
question.
Yeah,
It's a question of harmony or disharmony. And
yeah,
that's a musical kind of a comparison, but we experience it in our interactions, like you referred to initially. You went up and you had a great time with three other women, and I know each one of them. I know all four of you actually, and I that made my heart great, great, blah, 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 blah.
blah, blah, blah,
Made my
grateful.
heart really feel good to just know that you guys, because normally you would not do that, but you did do it. And it was great for each and every one of you in your own, whatever you each derived from it. Generally speaking, you all had a great time, but it was a break in the pattern for all four of you. It
Yeah.
literally was. And it cost you, well, it cost you the gas to get up there and the time to do it. And maybe a dinner or two that you bought. You might have spent some money, but you'd have spent it in Santa Fe too, some kind of way.
It
And they
wasn't
would have
about
done the
that.
same
Yeah.
thing in their own lives, in their normal everyday lives. But they took a break. They said, put this normal routine aside, and we're going to do this for ourselves. And you know what you experience. And I guarantee you, if and when I get feedback from the other three, which I probably will privately, they're all going to say a version of the same thing.
Yeah.
I know it. And that's
Yeah.
being in the flow, and that's also breaking pattern.
Hmm. It truly, truly was. And it's about being with kindred spirits.
That's
That was
true.
so nurturing as a woman, is to be with other women that are kindred spirits. And I do have beautiful groups of friends here in Santa Fe. And this was a very different group that we have a very similar vibration about our understanding of life, the world, and stuff like that. That is was wonderful, but and it was not heavy. We didn't get into like the dark underbelly of life because we all have, a certain understanding of what's going on. It was a remarkably funny and fun time, in the midst of all this craziness in the world.
Yeah.
And that's I think one of the things. Oh God, we're going into so many different things, but that's going into the flow. Like you're saying,
Yeah.
it's like going in the flow, and there's joy moving in the flow. And
There is joy
yeah,
there. That's a feedback that one can really notice. When you're in the flow, things are smooth. You're content, you're happy, you're not under pressure. It's a freeing kind of a thing,
yeah.
as opposed to having to do this, having to do that to get this, all that competition shit. It's a difference between cooperation and competition. You guys
Mm,
were cooperating with each other naturally. You
yeah.
weren't plotting to get ahead of this one or put that one down. You were in there to share and to build everybody. You were giving. Each one of you were giving. That's where you were coming from, and in the process, you were benefiting the benefits of what the others were giving. It wasn't, oh, I got to do this to get that out of each other. It was, oh, I've got this I can share that'll help all of us. That's that.
Well, yeah, it's so true, Maurice, and especially amongst women folk.
I can
There
believe it.
is this thing about, and it just humankind in general, there is this tendency that if I have to lower other people down to raise me up. So I feel, in other words, that I have to criticize other people so I can feel good about myself because I don't feel good about myself. So you're looking at what's wrong with other people. So like, oh my God, I'm not so bad. I can feel better. And there's something real insidious about women in particular with this. That's why women are more prone to gossip and stuff like that. I have to tell you, is I'm around beautiful crone friends. And what I mean by crone friends is older, mature women that are in their power. And being in your power, I look at it as that I can support and love my fellow women for who they are and their gifts and let them shine. I mean, I want my friends to shine. We spent the weekend of allowing each one of us to tell our story, whatever story we wanted to tell, and to mirror back to each other just how incredible, just a heartfelt connection, also just how amazing. And we celebrated each other's gifts, and
Yeah, I
enjoyed.
knew that. Yep. That was a rarity in, I guess, in life. But the more something like that can happen, the happier everybody will be for it, including your friends and acquaintances in Santa Fe, because you're a stronger woman today than you were when you went up there. And you're a strong
Yeah.
woman anyway, but you know what I'm talking about there. That's accurate. You're more
Yeah.
content with yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's yeah, not saying my life's not I'm in the middle of a lot of flux and things changing. And as we all are, no matter where we are, we're all moving, hopefully all moving upwards. We go or down the beautiful stream, but metaphorically down, not down. We're going, the river's going up. And yeah, so I'm, looking forward to the beautiful things coming down the path that I'm on. What they are. I don't know how they're going to look, but I'm imagining. Yeah, and that's like such an important thing, is that when you break pattern, as you're imagining what this new life looks like, imagine it and feel it in the pictures, but don't be attached to them. That's the big thing of the whole allowing and working with spirit. And that instinct, that it's any gratification in this world, it's not setting that goal, going straight for that. You set your intention, and then you start to break pattern and move and get in the flow, and then allow the flow to take you, because what you thought you wanted, it may not be that's the best and most beautiful thing for you, but at least that's the impulse, that initiation to get you moving. And then kind of let go of your hands. You have to keep letting go in the flow. You can't hold on at any point in the flow, right? Any point when you're flowing in, if you start holding on with an idea of what something has to look like or be, then all of a sudden you are stuck on a rock and you're not flowing anymore.
That's
Does that make
exactly
sense?
right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's that, John. That's kind of another way of saying what I was trying to point to with the Richard Bach thing, and also
Yeah.
the again as you're talking on that damn nursery rhyme is running through my head. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream, merrily, 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 merrily.
Life is but a dream.
Yeah,
Da,
you've
da,
heard it too.
da. Oh my gosh, I know. That's just so there
And
is. And
even at 62 or 63, you can see the wisdom in that, right?
yeah, it's too bad that when you teach kids like the things, like they couldn't extrapolate it into this is what that little nursery rhyme is trying to tell you. Instead, you just blindly sing it.
Yep.
There's so many things that kids just blindly do, but if parents really understood, they could say,
That
either why.
they're great. They're great teaching lessons. That's what they were, is teaching
Yeah,
lessons. They didn't. I guess 500-600 years ago, most people could not pick up a book and read it. In fact, they were mostly forbidden. The only ones that I'm told, the only ones that were allowed to learn to read were the aristocracy and the priesthoods
yeah,
of whichever was the predominant religious. Be it Muslim or be it Christian or Catholic or whatever the hell else in the Western world. Those are, I guess, the big three. Um, People did not have, they couldn't read, so it was all verbal anyway. And how did they, so those, in a way, probably back then, that kind of message interpretation of what is the meaning of this was actually transmitted to the kids, but that got lost in as time progressed. Another thing that the external world took away from the natural world, if you will.
well, the wisdom stuff, the old wisdom, not only it got lost because all the wisdom keepers were, the old
Yeah, they
bastard
were.
that was
Yep.
systematically eradicated. And you think about it, when before there were There were, when there first started to be books, all books, written material, artwork were all part of it, all had to point to God, but it had to be the God of that new patriarchal God up in the sky, devoid of earth out there somewhere, that
Yeah.
was very dictatorial, was very ruthless,
The god of
that,
contention.
yeah, but the point is, so that was all just, that's what you could hold on to. If you have a book, then you could keep reading, everyone could read it, and it's like the script, it's the story, right? And then you can keep it consistent. Well, before it was the oral traditions. And so if you wipe out the wisdom keepers, and you wipe out then you wipe out just one or two generations down, and then the rest of it, and you start teaching new things, it's just gone. It
Yeah,
is just gone. And the powers that be absolutely know that. And they've been working that for a long, long time. They systematically worked it across the globe,
they did.
So yeah, so
And
that
they're still
wisdom
doing it to the best of their ability. Their
is,
ability seems to be shrinking, however.
yeah,
You
yeah,
can see it because they're being exposed where before they were not being exposed. And that's even in my lifetime and in yours.
mhm,
Uh, even you were born in the early 60s. Okay,
yeah,
you were young, but the unveiling started during the Vietnam War, big time.
yeah,
And yes, there was a the infiltration of all of these breakaway groups, like what we call the hippie generation. But it didn't take that. There's a difference between the true hippie and the public hippie, anyway, and we know that. We
yeah,
don't need to go down that road too far. All genuine, heartfelt kind of outcroppings were quickly invaded and subverted by the powers that be because they knew they could recognize them. They viewed them as threats, and they went in there and corrupted them one way or another. Money, all kinds of inducements to play on the lower nature of mankind, and young people or vulnerable people who don't know it's coming fall victim to it. Yeah, victim and
right,
prey.
right, right. Yeah, it's so true. I just think it's like that double-edged sword where technology is becoming more sophisticated. We have all this biohacking stuff going
Yeah,
on.
apparently,
I
yeah.
mean, like crazy biohacking things, and then they're, in manipulation. But at the same time, there is a natural, where people are learning to use their natural biotechnology, the computer that's inside of this, how our brain connected to our mind, connected to our heart, connected to our soul and spirit, how that's all designed to work. That's the real technology. That's
That's the
mind blowing.
real,
That has more power than any computer that you can think of out there, folks. That
absolutely.
the design of you is the most powerful thing. And that's why all the hoodwinking and controls going on is because of that. We are the most power. You think the internet's powerful? What do you think that your natural technology can pull out of the ethers? The ethers
Absolutely.
above and the ethers below and the ethers around. I mean, that's what the powers that be don't want us to know. But that's what people are stepping into. They're starting to explore that, right? In spite
Yes.
of all the other stuff.
Because the power is more powerful than the force. You said it earlier, power versus force. The system
Mm-hmm.
is a forceful system.
Yeah.
The way hell they enforce things. They make proclamations. People rebel or don't always go along. They make them. They use force. That's what your uniformed armed constabulary, if you will, all around the world, be it a governmental army or be it a local, what we call police force.
Yeah. Of
And in the
course.
mob
Police
world,
and
they got
force.
their enforcers, people that will use force to make their point or to run their game the way they want it. Whereas a powerful entity doesn't need that. They just are that. And
Yeah.
in the end, power will win.
It
Will,
will.
if you will, it will prevail.
Because it's based in the
Because
truth
that's
of
correct.
how things are. It's not the shim sham game.
And
You know,
that's
the
why the controllers of today, here it is in 2024 going on 2025, still haven't won. And they've been at it for thousands of years, apparently, trying to suppress in all kinds of sophisticated, smart, enlightened whatever they want to call it, ways, clever ways, manipulative ways, they still haven't won.
Right.
And power just quietly flows along. And in the
It
process,
does.
it little rivers are joining it, and these little streams, which is us, if you will, uh, become part of a great massive river like the Mississippi, for
Well,
instance.
we've seen the power of water, unfortunately,
Yeah, we
North
have.
Carolina, you see that tremendous power of water, soft, slippery water. You think, and this together with force, with all the power, it's got an incredible amount of force. It's doing its thing. And unfortunately, it did its thing very destructively, but that's
It's
as far as
funny
that
on that
analogy
one.
goes.
I do want to mention I've been to Lake Lure, and I've sat in a restaurant overlooking that little broad river, is what they called it there, and it was it was a flowing river. It wasn't very wide, and there's big rocks in it and stuff, and it's usually for mountain runoff. What I saw the after the flooding situation that they experienced, and it's horrible. It's just amazing how the difference between the gentle flow of going with the flow as opposed to the rushing torrent that became. That just destroyed everything. It was horrible.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, nature's beautiful nature's power misused and
Again,
manipulated.
it ain't. Yes, it's forceful, but it's the great power that runs it.
Absolutely. Something you're talking about, Maurice, which I think plays into this is, the force versus power. And it's something that came up this weekend when we were all talking
Really,
about well, we were talking about self-governance versus, well, governance from within versus governance forced from the outside. And what we have nowadays, and you look at the political arena, the legal arena, and all of that, in all of our laws and rules and stuff, and they keep growing more and more because they can't quite put their finger on what it's going to be to keep man in line, in alignment, because we're not taught self-governance. And what we're talking about, all this thing, childhood rhymes, all this, where if children were taught from a very young age about the biotechnology that they are, how to work with that, and be a very different world, and you wouldn't need a government. You wouldn't need this all. You could have villages, you could have a beautiful barter system, you could have all this stuff, because people are enlightened to a place where you don't need the laws and rules imposing force on, to try to keep people in control. So governance from within as opposed to governance on the outside. And that's just, I think that that's not like, it's the reflection of where we are. It's not the thing in and of itself, but it's proof of what's wrong. You know what I
yep,
mean? It's like,
I do. And you got to the four of you got to experience a version of that dish this last weekend. Wasn't it nice?
yes, yes,
So
yes,
you know from
exactly.
personal experience what you're trying to convey via words, which cannot never really suffice for the actual experience itself. You know it, you felt
Yeah.
it, and you want to share it, but
In the,
and you're using words to the best of your ability to try and do that and say, yes, this can happen. It happened to me. And
well, I tell you,
you know for
these,
sure, and I'm telling you, I know for sure, there's three other women that experienced their versions of the same damn thing. So
well,
they
it was
know it
beautiful.
exists.
It's just beautiful, the whole, because we're all rebels. We are all absolutely rebels. And for
Yes, you are.
me, the meaning of that is that we're bucking the system, bucking what the system's telling us, and finding our own flow with it, and finding it to different degrees of what makes sense in our own unique ways, in our own flow of life, and that governing ourselves, learning that governance, how we can be in the flow, and that whole working naturally
The
with
funny thing
nature.
is, let me interrupt if you will, just for a
Yeah, yeah,
moment.
please.
The funny thing is, there's something that neither one of us have said yet verbally, in these little chats that I can tell you right now. I know you know it, and I'll include the other three women of the conversation. They know it too. It hasn't manifested yet, but you know it's possible, and you have a really strong suspicion, verging on absolute knowing, that you will be able to see a world in this lifetime where that is the norm rather than the what's the opposite of norm?
Abnormal.
Abnormal, I suppose, is as good as any. But yeah, there's something within you that says this is possible and this might even actually happen. You can see that that's a possibility where before, I'm telling you, 50 years ago, that was not a possibility. That was fantasy world kind of thinking.
Yeah,
But
that's
now it's not.
interesting. It's
It,
interesting, Maurice. I don't really give myself license to think about, because the girls were talking, girls, ladies, whatever, but we're gonna colloquially say girls. None of we're yeah, girls at heart and in beautiful women's bodies, and some of them were talking about 2040. And if you guys don't know about it, it's an archaic thing. I'm not going to describe it, but
okay.
just the changes and things, and like we're going to be alive for it. And I was sitting there thinking, like, I don't even think about that. That to me, I've really been working on just being right now, right here, and kind of not caring. Like, I really do. I have another year? Do I have 10 years, 20 years, 40 years? If the vapor canopy comes back, and I get to regenerate this body and all that, well, that could be cool. But I just find, Maurice, and maybe it's just where I am right now in life, is that I just getting by. I'm not getting by. I don't mean just getting by like that, but I'm resting right now in my right now. And I just
That's
don't know. I don't know how much time I have. And I kind of don't care anymore. Like, you know what? If I have a couple months, if I got a few years, if I got 10 years, 20 years, I regenerate and I've got 40, 50, 100 years. Oh my God, that would be so much fun, but in a healthy body. That would be really, really fun. But I don't know. I have no idea how this thing's going to play out. People have ideas, people have a lot of data on it. And me personally, I would have to just take a leap of faith and trust other people's data that this is the right thing and that. But I don't know that. I just don't know. What I only thing I know is right now. Is just right
let
now.
me
What can I do?
let me make a this is another just came to me, but most everything does just come to me anymore. Um, let's assume that you haven't eaten in 2 days and you walk into a house where the woman has prepared cherry pies that had just come out of the oven,
My
and they're moving,
favorite.
and you look at it and you say, yeah, but in 4 months we're not gonna have any food, or the grocery stores will be closed. So I better save this, and you stay hungry. Or
Mhm.
you come at that and you say, oh, what a lovely pie, and you're offered it and you eat it with the full confidence that tomorrow there's going to be something else there on the table for you. So you're enjoying the moment and you're living the life, as opposed to denying yourself the pleasures of the moment for the preparation for the doom that's about to perhaps fall upon us in 20 years or 2 months
Right.
or next year or whatever the hell. Do you want to live this life in a joyful, flowing manner, trusting that your meals will show up and you'll do the required things to get them there when the time is right, as opposed to saying, well, we might not have it, so I'll deny myself. I'll start preparing and deny myself on a daily basis. Well, that's a quality of life issue. How do you want to live your life? As a beggar all of your life in fear, or do you want to live it as if I've tried it both ways, okay? And I can tell you the which way I choose. I trust. I trust that it will be there. I will always have
Yeah.
enough. I will always have enough. That's another little story I told you a while ago about the two women saying, you always have enough. I trust that'll be true. Now, a lot of
Yeah.
people don't trust that'll be true. And in the process, they live the lives that the system wants them to live.
Yeah, they live a life of quiet misery.
Exactly.
That's unfortunate. And I love that analogy with the pie, Maurice, because I'm gonna eat I'm going to eat some pie. I'm going to share my pie. I'm gonna like rejoice in it. And it's like anymore, I don't even like think about whether I'll have pie tomorrow. I just trust that I'll have the right thing. For I don't even know. I just not even sure what that right thing is. And I kind of don't care what the right thing is. If it's going to be a blueberry pie, a rhubarb strawberry pie, which are all some of my favorites,
Oh Lord, I
or
haven't had one of them in 40 years, and man,
oh,
are they good.
my mom used to make those. They're so good. Or what it's going to be. It's sort of I'm just caring less and less about that. I'm caring about being in the right place, being in the right flow, and in the flow, how it's supposed to look for me for this vehicle, this vessel's ultimate fulfillment. I thought I knew in the past, and I would go out and this and that happened, and they were maybe perfect at the time because I learned whatever lessons I was supposed to. But anymore, it's sort of like thy will be done, but thy is through me, my higher self will. And that's what I want to be done. And whether I live in a big, beautiful house, a small house, maybe I have to learn to camp, God forbid. But
But you would learn. You would learn, and you would
I
find a way to make it beautiful too.
I just want a toilet and a bathtub.
Well, I don't blame you. I kind of like those features as well.
Those would be my big prerequisites. Somewhere to sit, do my business, and a bathtub.
Lord. Uh,
Oh man. Yeah. So, but I feel like I'm going through like big changes, a big reorienting of who this Elisa is, and letting go into a bigger flow, the bigger flow of me. So there's
yes.
so much to learn and explore with that. I feel like as much as I've taken this whole life to where I am of getting to here, and I've learned a lot. Yes, and all this stuff I've learned, and I have some wisdom, but I'm at this precipice of a new horizon, a bigger body of water, a bigger flow. And it's like, oh my God. And then there's a bigger one and a bigger one and bigger one. It can be very humbling, right? If you're truly on your journey, it's very humbling experience just
Well,
to know how
back to
big it is.
that's a great way to look at it too. You are where you are. You're in the river that you're in, and you're in the flow of it. But you already know that that'll join a bigger another river to make it an even bigger river. You can't get there by holding on to where you're at.
Yeah.
But the rock dwellers, the people that will not let go, in that Richard Bach thing that I started out with almost. But in order to get to the bigger river, you got to flow with the river you're in, and you will. And then you join it, you get a bigger river, and the circumstances are larger, and the situations are different. But you're in the bigger flow, and then there's another. Yeah, it'll join other rivers, and that's what's going on with us as we progress. I know that example. Your weekend with the other three women. That
Mm-hmm.
that's an invitation for you and them to continue that kind of to join that kind of a thing. And you know what? It's potentially it could be double the next time. It could be a half a dozen of you. And God knows
Yeah.
you might even invite a man in there or two. Who the hell knows?
Well, we
At
talked
some
about
point,
having
at
you,
some
Maurice.
point, we're allowed into the woman's world. Not the
We did
interior total one, but close.
we did talk about having you as an honorary member someday. Because you would fit right in. You would fit in beautifully. But most males' energies would come in and it would change the dynamics of a
Oh,
woman
it
with
certainly
it.
would. That had
Yeah.
to be for you. It had to be for the
Yeah.
three, four of you.
There's something that just the women's circles are really, really important nowadays. And it's uplifting. It's not a male bashing or anybody bashing or putting anybody under the bus or anything. It's about upliftment. And that's what the weekend is. We can
Well,
talk
that's what
frankly
you
about
guys need.
stuff.
You guys really need that a lot. That
Yes.
I go down that road quite a bit from having watched women for a long time, and I've alluded to that fact. Um, you're you have to be able to see how beautiful and powerful you really are, and generous and kind, and all of those virtues that you possess that have been squelched all of your life, and you're afraid to show them only in very limited thoughtful, am I going to be attacked, or that kind of defensive mechanism. But you, in at least, again, I will say, within those, especially the last 3 days, the weekend, you got an opportunity to not even really concern yourselves with that aspect, because you were amongst non-threatening friends that were there to
Yeah.
each build up the other. It was a rising thing, not a threatening thing at all. And
No.
believe me, that is different from your normal daily life.
And it's not a thing of, and just want to be really careful, like with our friendships, is that are we looking to form friendships to form agreements about the things that don't work, about the things that are holding us back, or our victimhood? And so often
There
we
you
look for
go.
friends, right, that to support our a stance of victim, and none of us will support that in each other. And so we say the truth to each other in a loving way, and remind each other that we're not victims of anything. If one of us should slip into a story that talks about that, that we're trying to, don't do that much, but we definitely were not, we're there in a loving place to remind each other about that upliftment. And yeah, it was very, very special. And it was very special to sort of take off the guardrails of properness. We were
Good.
very improper, and it was fun.
I'll bet. And you're not in jail either right now, so it wasn't that improper.
We
Or
contained it within the house where we were staying. But to have to be the good girls on things, and to have to be, what you have to eat, what you can smoke, what you don't have to smoke, what you're going to ingest, what you're going to say, what you're going to do, just to really just allow each other to just be. And yeah, it was pretty special.
well, the thing is, and again, I've been around all four of you personally and individually, separate, one from the other, not just dealing
Yeah.
with four women at one time, but I've actually talked to each one of you one on one. And the beauty that's within each of you is it's unique. It's not identical, but it's similar. And man, if you ever learn how to let that flow, open that valve, so to speak, good Lord, it would be
Well, it's
wonderful.
happening.
And you're all doing it more
Yeah.
and more, which is growth again. And I love seeing that. But
Yeah.
you're becoming stronger too internally. And it's not becoming stronger does not mean becoming more offensive to others, more um, forceful. You're becoming more internally powerful because you know who you are. You're not shaken by the events around you anymore, nearly as much as maybe you were before. Probably you were before. You're not shaken.
Yeah.
You're firm. You're solid.
Yeah.
And then that flow just goes naturally, and you're not threatened by anything external to you anymore. Doesn't mean you close off. You just don't allow the negativity to impose or impinge upon your life flow. And in that process, those who come under your quote protection, if you will, or your energetic bubble, which is expanded, so to speak, they get to benefit from it too, which feeds you. It
Yeah.
does energetically. The giving it comes back to you in some kind of weird way. It makes you feel good too, doesn't it?
Well, it does. But I wanted to back up, Moise, just said when you're talking about, I feel like I had a vision when you're talking about kind of like the beautiful enfolding wings of the mother, the beautiful enfolding wings of mother, which is creation, and
Mm-hmm.
how everybody can come to rest under that. It's not a judgmental thing. It's all there. It's like the womb, the beautiful
It's the divine
gestation,
feminine.
the
It's here
divine
you go
feminine.
again. Let me go into this whole historical thing, and that society teaches us about, and all this kind of thing. There's such a thing as a divine feminine and a perverted, some kind of, probably another cool way of saying it, but a perversion of that. And the same thing
Distortion.
for the masculine. There is such a thing as a divine masculine, as well as
Hmm.
the monster that runs the wars and all of that stuff, like we see plenty of in the Middle East in particular, and Ukraine as well. Um, that's a perversion of the divine. The divine masculine, as relating to, this is primarily, we're talking about what you women did amongst yourselves, and that's beautiful, and I love seeing it. But what would a divine masculine, how would it respond to that? They would just sit back and enjoy, and they would protect that against all intrusions. They would want to keep that preserved and let it flow in ways they don't even know. They don't need to know, and they recognize they don't need to know it, so they don't worry about it. They just like to see it. It's beauty.
Yeah.
And we do
Yeah.
enjoy it. We are visual. You guys all said all men are just visual. Well, we are in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But we we derive great pleasure from that. To see something that is to us what we call beautiful. And we don't want to see that destroyed. We want to protect it. And that's part of what the divine masculine is all about. There's way more, we
Uh-huh.
got a whole bunch of subtleties too, but that one everybody understands.
Yeah. Us women folk and men folk, we each have our own things we need to do together amongst ourselves to really regenerate what that means, the spirit, accepting the spirit of what that means to be women, to be harnessing in the masculine and harnessing in the feminine. And,
Mhm.
we women can do that amongst women, and men need to do that amongst men to have
Yeah,
it come together, to have proper relations between the two. And it's a beautiful thing. It's how this world's designed. And it's very unfortunate that not only is the feminine has been pretty, I say violated, but now they're really violating the masculine, demasculizing all these young boys, and we have all this mix up of stuff. And we don't need to go deep into that. I don't want to, but we all know it's very apparent to see that the masculinity of young men is being totally distorted,
it
and it's
is.
a very dangerous thing. That's a deep corruption of the pillars, right? The pillars of this world, the pillars of the masculine, the feminine. That's the divine pillars, in dichotomy. Those two energies. That's the power sources. They're supposed to come together in a very specific way. Now it's all being denuded. Now it's all being mixed up. It's like throw it all in a thing and mix it all up. And hey, that's perfectly normal. That's perfectly fine. And be inclusive. Well, yeah, okay, yeah, we should be inclusive, but this is effed up. It's so effed up, and it's manipulated. That's what people don't
Of course it is.
understand, is
And
that
it's
they're
meant
being
to
manipulated.
disempower. How about that? Power as opposed to force. It's not to disforce them, it's to disempower them.
I'm writing
And
that
that's
down. Keep talking. I can talk and write.
no, well, I don't even know.
Oh, I'm sorry, but it's about disempowering people, not disenforcing them. But it's disempowering is the whole thing of um what they're doing right now with the whole gender thing,
Yeah,
the
well, you know what?
fundamental principle.
They've done it to women too. It's
Oh
it's
yeah.
more visible amongst the men. Obviously, externally you can see it, and it's pushed all over the place. But what they've done to women over the last 60 years is equally bad. They've made you external, shallow beings, or they've tried to do that. And yet I see evidence every day. Well, not every day anymore, but physically, but I do see evidence via the internet that there are women like yourself, and again, like the other three that you interacted with over the weekend and one day earlier the last week. Um, you guys were walking around too, despite all of it. You're still walking around. Now, numerically, that's four against maybe however many women were in Red River at the time. It's a small community, and it's in between seasons and shit, so there's probably not a whole lot of tourists. But the numbers are still way weighted towards the people that don't know and are still stuck in the system. and the ones that are like yourself. So you know that, but there's still way more of you than ever were before at any one
Yeah.
given time. And you're actually interacting with each other, granted in small groups or maybe one
Mhm.
or two friends, but at least you've got each other and you know that. And you
It
know
is
that's a
happening.
valuable connection.
Yeah,
And it isn't
it's
based on
happening.
fucking money either, is it?
No, and it's not based on men on being pleasing or trying to win men over, because a lot of women, it's a competition for
Yes.
men, for masculine attention. And it's not about that, but it's happening all over, especially in this country. I'm not sure around the globe, but in this country, it's they talk about the uprising of the feminine, and all different age groups of women are starting to wake up to this, to a power source that they are,
Yeah.
and how, and coming back into alignment with it. And through that, it's going to really, I feel like we can really open the apertures and really help men. We can specifically really help pave the way for men to discover that. And I think we play a really pivotal role in that.
you guys
Um,
give us you guys give us the direction to go. You literally do. You tell us what needs to be done, and we're about the business of doing it for you.
yeah, there's something natural about matriarchy, something that in its right way. Chief Ironbush, I've been listening to a lot of his things, and he is all about that. And he'll explain in a very articulate way how it all begins creation. Where does creation come? It comes from within the womb. That the matriarch is a specific point of creation and coming into this world and coming from this world on through back the other way. And
Mhm.
that's the role of the feminine energies. And for us that are living in those in this life in the feminine body, I do believe we have many different lives that we have experienced or experiencing in the one now. And I believe we have experiences in different genders. That's my own personal experience and feeling with it. So, but for me, it was like in this life, I chose this feminine body. So it's about the feminine lessons. So I've really embraced that instead of bucking against it. Is this journey right now, and you're having a journey being in the masculine. So let's embrace the journey of the bodies that we came into. There, I don't. My own personal thing, this is so on PC. I didn't think I was going there, but I
Mhm.
feel like there's no mistakes at what we come into. Our spirits, like there's a body that we choose, that we come into. There's parents we choose. There's a family dynamic. There's a cultural dynamic. There's a social and national dynamic, and then there's the world dynamic that we incarnate into very specifically at this time. And it's not a mistake, folks. It's not a mistake. And if you know that's not a mistake, then you've got to look around like, well, why would I have chosen this? What am I to learn and experience through that, and to rise above it, and to learn, why and what you can do, develop whatever muscles there are, the spiritual muscles of power to rise above all that. Because we're much better. This is just an illusion here. This is the dream. This is the projection of consciousness. We're not stuck and ingrained in anything, nor does it hurt our spirit, anything that's happened to us here.
If you adopt that point of view, and you actually and truly do adopt that point of view, and I'm talking not to you specifically, obviously, I'm talking to people that, you know, see it, hear it, and say, can that be true? And kind of think, I'll tell you this much. You become much more solid within yourself as yourself. And you're not responding or responding. That's not, you're not reacting as much. You're responding. Big difference between those two, by the way. Reaction is immediate and it's not thought out, and it's almost always regretted in retrospect. Where you respond to something, that's where you allow yourself a second to gather yourself to do right action as opposed to a response.
Reaction.
React. Yeah,
React.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus, you were talking. I had four different thoughts that I wanted to insert because you were touching on so many good things. But we'll just let it go. It'll come or it won't.
No, no, but we were just, what I was talking about really is just the first off is to understand that there was no mistake in your incarnation, right? There's no mistake what body you came into, what family you came into, what culture, blah, blah, blah. And there's no mistake. And what I feel is that it's for us to transcend it, is to go ahead and to, develop the muscles of power, to rise above whatever we need to rise above, whatever it is that we're to learn. We're not victimized by anything, not even at the get-go. And to remember, we're immortals.
That is
Nothing.
the that's the secret. Once you know that and you live your life as if that is true, and you can fake it for a while just to see, I suppose, but I will tell you this. When you do that, things that used to throw you for a loop no longer do. And if nothing else, that's a nice place to be, as opposed to being in confusion, which is another way of we've kind of addressed along the way. The idea of being constantly confused, not knowing what's going on, and not being stable within yourself because you're upset by everything, and you're in a constant state of anxiety about this, that, or the other thing. You don't know, and you're restricted. It's like your hands are tied, and you want to be free. And the way to be free is to go with the flow of things. It's what we've been trying to share here. The more you go with the flow and trust that you have help external to yourself that you don't really own, in the sense of they do it because I'm paying them or some kind of thing like that, where it's a bondage, which is effectively, that is what when you work for somebody else for a salary, you're bonding yourself to them.
Mm.
We don't call it that way normally. Oh, I'm working. Well, you're also putting yourself into a form of bondage to that person for the length of period of time you're committed to them. And of course, they give you the wage, the daily wage, or whatever the hell it is. But that is what we're doing. Whereas, again, back up to the weekend, you guys were just in the flow. You weren't. None of you were there because you wanted to be there, not because you had to be there.
Right.
Big difference. Big
Right.
internal difference, and you all know it. And I keep referring to that, but every especially woman listening to this, I'm sharing that with you. That is so, and you know it in your heart, you know it in your life experience, because you've all had measures of that along the way, and you know how it feels compared to having to go to work, for instance, or be somewhere because somebody else told me to be there and I had to be there for whatever reason, because
Right.
I'm bonded. That's a great one. Being bonded to somebody intentionally too. Well, bondage
Yeah.
is a form of slavery, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so many. I know there's so many things you said there, Maurice, we could go off on, but that's really interesting, is bonding, being bonded, bondage. That's not like, I so much, all this stuff has been coming to me now about words. Only
Yeah.
because I'm open about the whole language and the whole, while we enslave ourselves through the language we use. This anymore. I'm like, I don't want to say anything because once again, Chief Ironbush was going into the whole weekend thing. It's like weekend, like through the weekdays they make you weak. The Pope's calendar, the
And
Pope's
that's
calendar
true.
of enslavement, Monday through Friday,
Yeah.
nonstop. That's the Pope's schedule of enslavement, folks. Sorry, weekend. You're really weakened by the end of the week, and you just, yeah, it's crazy. It goes deep, but it is a world. I want to go back to something you were saying,
Sure.
and is like just going, is the place of peace is being centered inside of us. And the minute we step outside of ourselves and we start reacting to the world, we start, instead of responding is coming from a place of the place of peace, but we start reacting and letting the world in like that, we get into the world. And that's another thing I heard this weekend in one of the videos I was listening to, is like the world is a whirl. And so you get into the whirlwind of the world, you step out of your peace and you get into the whirlwind, and then you're hanging on for dear life and you're getting whirled around, you know. And
True.
it's one of the things like world peace, world peas. We're like world peas in the world trying to go for world peace, but instead we end up being world peas.
Yeah. WHIRL as opposed to WORL. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
They sound the same though.
They do, exactly. And that's not, coincidence there. It's
No, it's
phonics,
not.
phonics, folks. It's
Mm-mm.
the vibration, the basic
That's the
vibration of the world.
that's the language is constructed by magicians, literally. Now, whether they're,
Literally,
you can go deeper
literally.
into that there, and some would, and I might be inaccurately, but I might want to say that's the world of the black magicians that
Yeah.
constructed that to use it against us for their benefit. And us being ignorant, not knowing, ignorant isn't a bad thing. It just means not knowing or ignoring things because we don't know to notice them. Um, they play on it, and they benefit for them. They so-called benefit for themselves. They gain power over others. They gain control over others.
Yeah.
Again, that's actually holding on as opposed to letting go. And they're actually rock dwellers themselves. They're holding on to their sense of personal power in comparison to whoever else they're comparing themselves to at the at the at the at the at the peril and the cost of others around them, as opposed to the natural way, which is you've talked about that, the divine way, which I like to use sometimes, of just you always have enough. You're not living in a lack in a world of lack. You're living in a world of abundance. You can
Yeah, it's
adopt
all
that
right.
policy.
Mm-hmm. It's not lack and abundance. We are taught to measure it in the reflection of the world around us. And that's not where it comes from. Because never can have enough abundance to feel good. And it's never, if you're going to measure I'm going to be at peace and I feel good based on what I have out there, you're just never going to find it, because
No,
lack and abundance is about a quality of heart,
that is so
quality of
true.
heart.
That
Yeah,
is so true. And that's been twisted too. That's
yeah,
part of the old, if we look at it, that's probably likely so. The part of the old wisdom understandings of the world that got perverted by the overlay, if you will. And
mhm,
it got transmitted to, instead of internal awareness, to external inputs as the most
yeah,
important thing.
yeah, yeah.
And
That was the
that
main
was done by
agenda.
the fucking black magicians of all
That
stripes, and there are all kinds of them.
and that was the main agenda, right? Is to get people out of themselves. Don't discover your true power. You need an intercessor, an intermediary. We'll talk to that our God for you. But
Yep,
he's an
yep.
angry God. He's don't piss him off.
We're
All
the
that
experts
stuff.
and you're not.
Yeah, we're the experts. Trust us. Look at what we do. You can trust us. We rape, pillage, and plunder.
Yeah. In your name, though, for your benefit.
Exactly. Oh my
Yeah.
God. It's just comical,
Well,
isn't
it
it?
is. It's horrendous for the victims. It's horrendous for the victims. So stop being a victim in your own life. And wherever you catch yourself, stop it. That's a Bob Newhart skit. The woman comes in and sits at his desk. It's on YouTube. Old Bob Newhart thing. Stop it. She gives him a list of all kinds of things that are not going right in his life, and he says, "I got two words for you. Stop it." And she just looks at him dumbfounded.
Oh my God. I gotta say, when I was in college, I went to see Bob Newhart live. So here are all these college students, and there's a stage, and there's a little chair sitting on the stage. And he just unassumingly strolls in, modest man, nothing, boisterous, loud or anything, but he just kind of quietly comes in. He sits in his chair and he starts talking. I'm not sure I ever laughed so hard in my life. He was so funny. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
yeah,
What a brilliant, brilliant comedian with light. And then
yeah.
on the exact opposite note, I went to see Rodney Dangerfield.
Oh
This is
boy.
from way back. This is the way back time machine. And his humor is not my humor. Like anything he ever did on TV, I wouldn't watch because I found him very irritating. So I thought, like, oh, this is going to be really fun. I'm probably going to walk out. Once again, a master of comedy. He was so stinking funny. So in spite of that persona of his and not thinking it's my type of humor. He was hysterical. Oh my God. I love good humor. And that's one of the things we did this weekend, Maurice. We laughed so hard. In fact, I have to show you, it's not for public consumption. I have to show you a comedy routine that Kestrel and I did.
Oh Lordy.
And we
Oh Lordy.
videotaped it. It's so, oh my God, we laughed so hard. It's really funny. So when we're done, I'm gonna show it to you when we're not taking.
Okay. Not for public consumption, huh?
No, yeah, not at this point. The person that we did it about, they're gonna have to, give the okay on that. But I did a fake interview of Jason and Kestrel
Oh
was
boy.
Jason. That was the interview.
Oh Lordy.
Oh my God. It's just sneaking funny. Anyway, so we're waiting for him to watch it. He can decide what he wants to do.
Let him decide. Offer him the opportunity anyway. That's a fair thing to do. And it's
It's
a right
so
thing to
fair
do.
because it's about him. So it's so fair to do. But anyway, just lots of laughter. Didn't mean spill the beans, but there's lots of laughter going on. That's enlightenment, is getting light. Having fun with, laugh at this stuff. It's not to take it so seriously. You're in the dungeon program, and it's so serious. You're like, oh, and you're so miserable. And then you start lightening up and raising above it. And then you look at it and you go, oh my God, that's so silly. We believe that. We're so silly. We gave our power away to that. It's really pretty stinking funny and stupid. It's like lighten up about it.
And
It's
friends
a
can help.
comedy.
Friends can help you see that too, as you experienced again. Stuff came up and they sit there and say, Elisa, you're crazy. That's stupid. I don't know that they actually said those words to you, but you probably said, it is. And well, damn, you're right. And you probably had an opportunity to say to each and every one of them a version of that to them for something they took serious. And you said, well, wait a minute, look at the ridiculousness of that whole situation. And they
I
stop
know.
and they look at it and say, well, son of a bitch, you're right. And what would follow after it would be a smile and a release, a letting go.
That's what we have to bravely look at our sacred cows, right? We have to
Yes.
really look at the things that we're holding on to, these belief systems, and we have to look at the data, look at the information. Does it line up? Is it real? I did another interview this week. We did two, a funny one, and then I did a real one where our dear friend Happy, who I will be releasing this video, I've just got to do a little editing with it, where I interviewed her on why the Earth isn't a globe, a spinning ball through space. It's like, okay, you may want to laugh. And I started by saying, you may want to laugh, poo-poo, whatever, but just keep an open mind, be curious. Why would people say that? And she is a very smart woman. She just kind of went through just the basics of data of why it doesn't line up based on data NASA knows, that they actually use, and all this stuff. And, so you got to be willing to look at the facts on things. Jason does this, all kinds of truthers out there. There's some shills with it, but the legit ones will have something to back it up with. And you got to look at what they're backing it up with. If you're not sure, do your own research.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Science is actually a good thing. Modern science is not so much, but the idea, modern science is a perversion of what science is supposed to be, a seeking after knowledge that it's never final. It's just a clearer vision of what we're confronted with, and the way this is a scientific method. It's a procedure that, if followed strictly, leads to a clearer vision of what we're actually contending with in the physical world.
Well, there is the problem. That's the problem, though, Maurice, is that the sciences have been usurped in the control pattern. So
absolutely,
people doing science that goes against the science, the accepted science, and they can have all the facts or all the things that point, the anomalies that point to why this couldn't be true. But you're then, oh my God, you're shamed.
Well, we saw that. We saw a prime example of that, obviously, over the last 4 years, going on 5 years now, we saw that manifest right in front of our faces, how that actually worked. And you know what? A lot of people didn't see it. Obviously, the ones that bought the story that was being sold to
Oh,
them.
yeah.
Literally, it was being sold to them,
We're
just
talking
like a fucking
epidemic.
car salesman or,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah. We don't, I don't want to get, that's like, you either know it or you don't know. And if you don't know it and you don't believe it, then just let it go. If you do know it, you know what we're talking about. Don't stress over it. Don't jump to
no,
get your panties in a bind about it.
yeah.
But for me, if somebody's talking about something that smacks in the face of what I believe and they're talking intelligently about it, man, I got FOMO. I want to be in the fear of missing out. I want to know what it is they're talking about, what they know. I'm going to look into it. I'm just going to keep an open mind and be curious about it. I want to look into it. It's like, well, what are they
And
basing
you
that
want to
on?
see clearly on something you don't see clearly. That's
Exactly.
another version of everything that we're all about anyway. But we don't
Yeah.
limit ourselves to strictly the external world. We also are aware there's an internal world, and we want to know about that as well. So that's
Yes.
between you and I and people who mostly, get along with what we're talking about in general. They're about that business too. They're not just
Yeah.
stuck in the real world as the only world.
Yes. They're not going to be fooled by the appearance of things. I am. That's a good one.
Yes,
You know,
you get so many
um,
one-liners in this one. You'll have a hard time picking the right one, but you will. You'll pick a really good one.
okay, Mr. Maurice, I think that we're going to call it here, but we're going to stay on the line together because I got something to show you.
Okay,
But
I
for
want to see
everybody
it.
else, we're going to sign off now. As always, peace from within. The thick, what to press button if you like it. To comment if you want to have a comment, you want to throw your 2 cents in. We're happy to entertain it. We may not
Now, for
accept it,
what
but
it's
we'll
worth, I
entertain
read
it
all
for
the
a minute.
comments. I even comment back every once in a while, and you do
I
too.
I do. We do. We're on that. All right, everybody. Until next week with Maurice and I, we are signing off.